Next up, the Two Business Guys Mastermind on how to help your business play the long game and get paid. Enjoy. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. Welcome back, everybody. And I wanted to just jump in real quick because Rob, we talk a lot off screen and, we leave so much on the practice floor. So look, I just came out with a statement that said, hey, bird in hand beats two in the bush. I remember hearing that, and it's about having stuff in your hand. And Rob went into a nice little, you've got to hear this next. We're going to be talking about opportunity and taking advantage of it. And then I'm going to go into something else in the content space. But Rob, what were you saying about people believe that thriving and surviving?
Yeah. So to that point, Randy, the whole idea that bird in the hand beats two in the bush is a proverb. It's an old, right? It's one of those Confucius says type things. It's been around since forever. And it makes perfect sense when you look at the fact that we are built for survival, right? Our hierarchy of needs, if you ever seen Maslow's hierarchy of needs, talks about, right, food, water, and shelter, then safety and security, then belonging. Everything is about survival, about making sure that we continue, right? So, and, self-esteem and then self-actualization are after those things. But the whole idea is that so many people, when I talk about this to my students in my Thriving in Chaos course, so many people think that surviving and thriving are actually on different sides of the ledger. They think that they're kind of mutually opposites, right? You're either surviving or you're thriving. And the whole thing is that is completely not true, right? The opposite of surviving and the opposite of thriving is not surviving. Just so that, so that everybody's like, that's the diametric, that's the thing that's actually opposed. You're surviving or you're not surviving. Thriving is a certain degree of surviving, right? And so what I tell my students is you have to go through surviving to get to thriving. And so when we look at that wisdom of surviving, oftentimes people are like, don't pay attention to that, or that's stupid, or don't. No. And what you said was really awesome, right? It was another Confucian saying that says, the man who chases two rabbits catches none, right? And it's very true in the sense of chasing something. But you said something that was really powerful. And it's the difference between surviving, which is focusing on one rabbit so that you can make sure you have something to eat, and transcending survival, which is thriving, right? Surviving on a higher level, which is, yeah, but if I set traps, I can chase lots of rabbits and not miss any.
And that's where it is. When you're thinking about getting out there right now, there's so many different opportunities. And of course, there's so many things you could choose from. The question becomes which one to choose, which one has the best opportunity for you to catch something, and or setting things up so that you can chase many, trap the rest, and go after the one, right? And this is where I think entrepreneurship in itself suggests you have the freedom to choose what you do on a daily basis. And I want to bring in an example. I just got an email. Guy saw me on a podcast and says, I think you'd be the guy to help guide me to where I want to go. Tells me a story, 35 years in the IT space, wants to retire, but wants to retire to something. Saw me on, I want to say he saw me on Patrick's podcast, on his Lean podcast. And he says, he said, and then what happens, Rob? You've heard this before. He started watching my other stuff. Now, I was on a podcast months ago.
Yes.
But now we talk about, again, setting traps. What do you have out there as buy buttons? You've heard us talk about this before. How much you want to make is in direct proportion. Now, this is how much you want to make is in direct proportion to how many buy buttons you have out there. In other words, how many ways people can buy from you. Now, I have a lot of buy buttons out there. He found one. He contacted me. Now he's, becoming a client, a probable client. Why? Because he's already made a micro commitment and put in some money toward that.
Yep.
That becomes the opportunity. That's the traps, setting the traps. But this concept of survival, man, I
think something is so important in what you're talking about. And a lot of times people will miss this. And this is that nugget. Again, you put out a nugget, Randy, with this trap idea, because it's transcending what we think about. It's not chasing, right? It's the same thing. You were talking about this last week. And again, dropping gems. You were talking about the difference between hunting and farming. Right. Farming is transcending the practice of hunting. There's a whole bunch of things that go into hunting. You have to know the migration patterns of animals. You got to understand what their daily habits are. You got to understand and gathering. You got to know what berries and what things you can eat, all the rest of these types of things. You got to know all of this stuff even before you can go hunt. And then you have to actually put the work in to go hunt and to go get that. And then when you get it, it spoils. So it's something that you have to do continually. And so survival gets that rhythm gets baked into your mind. And you think that that's the way that it has to go. It has to be over and over and over and over and over. And then you learn to farm, right? Agriculture changed the world.
It did.
Right. We had never had cities. We had never had any of the rest of that type of stuff. But the ability to understand, wait a minute, I can till this dirt, put some seeds down, and if I am tending it and I am then harvesting it, I'm not reaping one-to-one transactional for my energy, right? This is that transcendence from time, trading time for money. I'm not getting one-to-one for my hour. I'm getting 1,000 to 1 or 1,000,000 to 1 to my hour. That is the thing that we have to really pay attention to, because this is what, again, it's the same goal. It's still surviving. It's just surviving on a way different level. And so what Randy was just talking about with the opportunities and having buy buttons out and having all the rest of that type of stuff out there, the whole idea is you start looking at the system and playing the long game instead of the short game. There's a book that I read called The Difference Between Millionaires and the Middle Class. And one of the things that the author said in that book, he said, middle class people and lower, poor people live kind of day to day, week to week, check to check, at best month to month, right? That's their kind of idea of success. That's where our mind is. That's where our focus is. That's what we're paying attention to. So they're working on the short-term survival metrics. And he said the biggest difference between millionaires and the middle class is that millionaires are thinking, right? They've gotten good at surviving day to day, week to week, month to month, check to check, right? And if you think about it, most of the people in the middle class have gotten good at surviving that time span as well, but they just haven't gotten ready to make the next jump, because he said millionaires think year to year. How can I make 50% more next year than I made this year? How can I make 100% more next year than I did this year?
Tremendous.
And by having that long game approach, right? They're not worried about, are they going to survive? They know that they're going to make at least as much this year as they made last year. And think about it. So many of us in the middle class, all of the people that I deal with, when I go into companies and I'm restructuring and changing how they do things. A lot of the people that are there have been there 5, 10, 15 years, making the same salary, 3% increases for that time. So it's not as if they've been in danger of making less money any of those years. But there's a switch that you have to have in your brain. There's a thought process that you have to make when you decide to go thrive, which is, I'm going to play the long game. How do I make this year, while still surviving, better than last year? And that's the change. That's the pivotal question on thriving. In the trapping analogy, Randy puts it to the test, right? How do I make sure that I can still chase rabbits, but I can catch more?
It's the basis on which I started our Bridge Business Institute. It was that idea. I says, look, I cannot capture all of these ideas. I can't chase all of these ideas. I had too many, and I had trained. Read some really good material on how to get ideas, how to, put yourself in a 10 idea type of, a day kind of thing, and listen to a whole bunch of James Altucher, and he was like, look, it got to the point where I was getting so many and putting them in tubs and piles and stuff like that. And I thought, you know what? I've got to have a mechanism that I can chase them in a specific way, right? Without having to chase them myself. In other words, I could corral them. I can say, okay, it's like the buffalo roam, or the farmer that has thousands of acres, and then I used to always wonder, how are they keeping track of those? Well, they just let them roam, and when they need to go get a couple of them, they brought them in, kind of a thing. But they're out there. You've got the fencing, you've got they can stay within this time frame, right? But they roam. So the idea's got a chance to roam, and I created the company so that I can spin something up that is now tested, and then from that testing, teach it. And that was the mechanism. It's like, why do you, because people used to ask me, why are you putting out so many ideas? Because I'm testing stuff. I'm trying things. And now I'm starting to see the dividends from that approach. As I thought about it years ago, like you said, I'm seeing the dividends because now people are looking and saying, when I heard you on this, you brought so many different perspectives to this one subject matter. And now they're hiring me based on that. They said, I thought you'd be the person to take me to where I want to go because the richness of your experiences. Exactly. And that was the exact plan. Right now, I didn't know how exactly the plan was going to come to fruition. Right. I just said, I'm going to create a business. I'm going to start a lot of things. I'm going to test some things. And now that's the long view, because as a part of that, you're thinking, man, how am I going to eat? Well, I did some strategic things, save some money, put some specific things, reduce my burn rate, live frugally for a while. All of these things are long view things. This is exactly what you talk about when you're talking about, all right, here's the chaos of life, and now here is thriving. How do you manage this so that you can get to this? And I love when you go into your talks about this, because I listen. I'm sitting there and I read the books, and I'm kind of going, this is pretty good.
Well, thank you, brother.
Anyway. So, hey, everybody, we just wanted to, invite you to smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, talk to us about these subject matters, see how they touch your life, see how they help you. And if you can just listen to something that we say and then go make some money from it, this is one of the key things. This is when we know we've been successful. Then let us know, right? You've got the email. I'll always leave that in the description field. And if I forget, you guys, you find us. You know where we are. You just look us up, right? Rob does a lot of stuff. I do a lot of stuff. So find us and says, you know what? It was this particular episode. And I hear it now, Rob. I hear it in the street, man. People will say, hey, I caught your episode. And it was really interesting. They just give you that look like, what do I need to do to be a part of this? Or come on, and we're going to be starting next week. We're going to be bringing some guests on. Right now, we have some people want to come on the show and they want to talk about this stuff. So Rob and I are going to be masterminding with some other people. And let me tell you, when Rob starts asking those questions, you get the lawyer hat on. It's oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Or, he puts, he's a jujitsu instructor and all that kind of stuff too. He can body some people. So
yeah,
I'm just going to let him go.
I want to make sure you're getting the best value, right? The whole thing about it. And you all know this on the show, right? When Randy and I are talking, whenever we're dealing stuff, I don't want, and what I talk about, from my company, it's not just about informational education, right? When I go into companies, that's one of the biggest things that separates me as a consultant going into a company from all the other consultants that are out there. And I make sure that when anybody comes on, it's an expert that they're talking with us, that we get that same thing from them. There's a lot of people that can tell you what to do. You notice on this show, Randy and I don't just tell you what to do. We also tell you how to do it, how to apply it to your particular situation. Because, right, all that information out there is great. But this is one of the things that I learned from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. He said, knowledge is potential power. Applied knowledge is actual power. And if you don't know how to apply the knowledge that you're getting, then we're not doing you that service. That's why you see us we go into depth with stuff. That's why we have the different series, and we start at this big stage right here where you're hearing everything, and then we say, okay, this is how you break it down a little bit. This is how you break it down. And even last week, Randy was telling you literally, here's this thing that you can do, and you can go here and you can do
Here
it.
are the
And,
tools
right,
to use.
right. And here's how you can go get them, and here's how you can use them. That's the whole key, because it's great for us to be smart and to have all this knowledge, right? I went to school for a lot of years. My parents and I paid for a ton of degrees, but that's not the point, right? That's for my ego. That makes me look good when I go to my mama's house and she got my degrees up on the wall and she can say, that's what my baby did, right? Like that's for me. But for you all, it's how do I take all of that knowledge and all of that information and all the experience that Randy and I have, and how do we make that apply to your life? And so when we have people come on, that's you get me asking questions, you get me poking, you get me seeing how that works. That's the exact reason, because I want you all to be able to take this and actually do something with it. That's the commitment that we have. That's why we're masterminding, right? Masterminding is about asking the deep questions. It's not about the surface level stuff. It's about getting into it and be like, but sometimes this doesn't work. Why doesn't this work like this? Or what's the big thing that's there? And that's where you get, I feel like for us, that's where you get the value. That's where we bring value to you. So I'm going to keep asking questions. I'm going to keep poking, and y'all will get the benefit. That's the goal.
So think about that as a leverage point, everybody. So, and I want to show you guys something that, I've got this course that shows you how to read and look at emails and leverage the information. And it goes with what Rob just said. When you're listening to us, how do you grab the information out and then apply it? Right now in the course, I go into longer detail and show you the steps, show you the hows, show you the who's, show you the tools to use to do exactly that. And it was this one that I get this email from the Tilt right now. They do some interesting things over at the Tilt, but we are not affiliates for them, but I tell you what, I should call them up and say, I'm getting ready to brag on y'all. And because of the way they do their stuff, get ready to brag on y'all. You shouldn't send us a check. So anyway, I may have figured that out somehow, but I want to show you guys this and just walk down how you can take what you read in an email, right? I call them, you take the boring emails and, and I can't remember the title of the actual course right now, but how to take annoying emails and put cash in your pocket. That's kind of how I rock it out, right? And I step you through it. Right now, let me show you this real quick. So this is how it looks, right? So I get this newsletter. And one of the first things you start thinking about, can you see this all right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So it's called the Tilt. Now the Tilt just does some cool stuff. They're for content entrepreneurs. It teach you all these, ways to write your content and make money out of it, blah, blah, blah. Right. And they call them, they really speak exactly to the content entrepreneur. So I get this, right? Came over the other day. And first thing I noticed is, oh, look at this. CEX opportunity. So they're trying to get you over to the Creator Economy Expo. All right, CEX. So this is their stuff. So if you're thinking about, if you ever wanted to get somebody over to your event, how could you put it in a format that's really easy? So look at this. It says, just fill out this form. And what does it go to? A very simple form. It just kind of get you in there, right? Only good for new registrations. Just a little call to action. Let's go over here and see what it says when I click on that. It goes to a very simple form. Look at this. Google Forms. So you can do Google Forms virtually for free. Mm-hmm. You go over there, it's got its logo, it's got its hyperlink to it, right? All this cool stuff, right? So you think, that's interesting. So that's a tip. You say, okay, if I were to model this and I was doing something similar, is this a good model for me? Right? So let's go and find out what else they're doing in this newsletter. Right now, I'm going to be rocking out some newsletters like you would not believe, because I'm seeing the value of being able to present information and opportunities through them. So look at this. So they give you an idea, tell you what's in this issue, right? Smart video strategy. I thought, oh, that's pretty good. Tailor-made content. I thought, I didn't know what that meant. But then you kind of like see what they're doing is telling you what they're going to be talking about. Then they talk about it. Then they tell you when they're done, right? You heard that kind of strategy before, right? So now look, they go into it a little bit of a picture here. And then they go into what they are talking about. And oh my goodness, they start off with a story. And I thought this was important. They start off about I had never seen this commercial, but they talked about the Chevy commercial that came out, I guess, in 2021. You look at this, they give you a link to it. Now they could be affiliates for anything that you buy if you go to this site. Give them a link, right? So now he talks about a really good story about a man replaces an old wreath on his barn, bringing you into the story. That old wreath represents something. His wife has died. He's getting older, right? He looks in, he sees his car, his old car is dusty. Yeah, come on. We know somebody that's got a car like this, right? Some old car they're not using. And then his daughter restores the car for him, presents it as a Christmas present, right? But it also represents something else, because in the car, hanging from the mirror, is a picture of he and his wife who's passed on, right? So it's kind of like the renewed life. What are you doing? It's hitting you emotionally. This thing got 4 million hits. Now imagine you now are looking at this and you're modeling this. And you're saying, what story could I tell that's emotional, that has similar heartstring pullers? And then can I get 4 million hits? Where could I put it in front of people that gets that kind of hits? All these kind of things, right? And then it says, okay, let's teach you how to do this. That's why I like the tilt so much. You could do this same stuff in your newsletters, in your communications. This is selling. You're educating people, right? You tell a story. Now you educate them, show them how. 1, 2, all these different things. Establish goals for your video content. Okay, that's great. Watch lots of videos. Why? Because you want to be in an environment and a mindset that then gets you into what you're trying to establish. Then it talks about create something. Go and do the work. Rob just talked about it. Knowledge is one thing. Applications, another, right? And then work with a video partner to level up your output. In other words, make sure your stuff is tight. You got some good, sound. You can go to Fiverr. You can go to all these different places that get stuff done for a little bit of money. And then it says you could work with a micro influencer. You could send it out to somebody. So we talk about where would these 4 million views come from? They may not come from your channel because you may have 4 views. You may have 4 people, right? But you send it to somebody that has 400,000. You send it to somebody that has 4 million. And then they say, well, for that, that's going to cost you a couple $100. But you can go, well, a couple $100 to put it in front of that many people to get these kind of potential hits. And if your newsletter has links in it that you are an affiliate for, that you get paid as a result of people clicking on them, that 4 million or how many ever people come to it is money and cash in your pocket, and you're modeling this. So it goes on, right? Just looking at the style of their newsletter. Right now they talk about, hey, here's a guy that we want to show has a business. Now, I don't know. He could have called up the tilt and says, I'd like to advertise in front of your folks. And they go, okay, right? That becomes, so the tilt is specific folks that have that, like specific things. You put your business in front of them. Now you're putting your stuff in front of specific thirsty or hungry crowds, not just everybody, not just hitting social media and not knowing what is going to stick. You put it in front of a specific crowd. This is all that's available to you. As you see other people do it, that becomes the opportunity for you to say, how could I do that too? So they go into the story, right? They give you an opportunity to go over to his stuff. You click on it. Now, you know that there's tracking software. If you don't know this, let me tell you, there's tracking software that if you click here and go over to his stuff, it can tell you where it came from. So let's say you go over to his stuff and you buy some things, and you can track that back. And then you can say, hey, listen, as a result of being in front of the tilt in this case, or in front of your audience, you got 170 sales. And you can say, okay, I'll take a percentage of that, please. Right? So as you look at something like this, you hear what we talk about here. Ask yourself, how can I use this right now to put cash in my pocket? That's the key part. Why we say the things we say, why we're going to be having the people we're going to be having on it over the next several weeks is because we want you to hear it and then say, I can leverage that. They've taught me how. I can leverage that immediately. I can apply it. and put cash in my pocket or grow my business. That's the whole reason I get on podcasts, man, or look at podcasts sometimes, Rob. And tell me what you think here, because I look at some of them and I go, I can't get that hour back, and it was nothing. I mean, it was just a whole bunch of smoke. They taught me nothing, and I can't stand those types. I vowed not to be that type of podcast. Now look what else they say, Rob. And then tell me your thoughts on the idea that people should just get on and just start talking. You know, you see, look at this. They got links. I tell you, man, I am in negotiation right now to purchase a portion of negotiations. Say that a portion of a magazine. And immediately what I told the owner is that, hey man, we need to take it 100% online. And he's done it differently for years and years and years. Now I asked the question, are you making any money? No. Okay. Or not the money that he wants to make. And I said, exactly. What if, and I'm even willing to do this. I said, listen, what if I can make you X amount of dollars? I said, first of all, what would you like it to make? You got to know that question. That's one of the things I ask entrepreneurs when I work with. What do you want to make? What do you want your business to make? That's you got to know that. And then we work backwards and figure out how to do it. Now I've already identified 15 to 16 different ways that he can make money. And I gave him 5. I said, now you can say, thank you, Randy. I'm going to go do that. See you later. Or you can say, listen, here's what I think you could help me with. Here's what I'm willing to do in terms of percentage ownerships. It's because that's the long game, guys. Look, that's what Rob talked about. That's the long game. It is stop trying to go out there and get a paycheck and start going out there and getting equity.
Exactly. Now, here's the thing that I want to pause really quick, because you just gave a ton of great information, and there's a couple of big concepts that I want y'all to pay attention to, because we've said this a couple of times now. Play the long game, play the long game, play the long game. And I know that when I was first starting out, I had heard that, I had read it, I had seen it 100 times if I saw it once. And the thing that I struggled with was, well, how do you play the long game when you need money in your pocket right now?
Yeah, sure.
And the thing that I want to let you all know right now is that if you're in that position, if you're trying to figure out how do I play the long game when I need money in my pocket right now, the thing that you need to pay attention to is the long game is more mental than it is circumstantial. And what do I mean by that? When I first started my business, I had just came off of another business, and not even another business, another job where I was doing commissions, and it was a horrible 6 months. Then I decided to start my business because I was like, if I'm gonna be working this hard for somebody else and struggling and suffering, I might as well work this hard for me and struggle and suffer. Right? So the first couple of months of my business, I made $2,000 one month. I made $3,000 the next month. And then I made a whopping $0 the next month. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying to figure out how I'm gonna feed my family, how I'm gonna take care of everything. Everything was a struggle. And then I realized that I was going to have to do a couple of things. I was ship shopping, right? There's a varsity tutors app where I was doing varsity. I was tutoring people, right? I got all these degrees. I might as well use it, right? I was tutoring people, but I want you to pay. I'm making $10 an hour ship shop, and I'm making $15 an hour varsity tutoring.
Yep. Okay,
shipped,
I got you.
Right? I'm doing substitute teaching, right? Making $11 or $12 an hour substitute teaching. But those jobs allowed me flexibility to do the stuff that I need to do in my job. But I want you to pay attention, right? Like at the point that I'm doing these things, I have a bachelor's degree in economics. I have a bachelor's degree in speech communications. I have a master's degree in teaching, and I have a law degree from a top 30 law school. But I'm doing these $10 and $12 and $15 an hour jobs. But the reason I was able to do that and cobble that together, because that was what was necessary for survival while I was playing the long game of my business. Now, the beauty of it was I only had to do that for about 4 months. Shortly after that 0 month, I had a I met somebody, I networked, and then I went and did some consulting work for their company. And now I was making $1,000 a week. And then we did another contract, and now I'm making $2,000 a week. Right. And over time, my business went from that period where life was really tough. And there was a couple of months where literally we were trying to figure out how we were going to pay for food. There's a local charity here in where we live called Love Inc. that my wife went and got a box of food from because we were in that space. Right.
These are the stories. Right.
Right. But the key was what we were doing was I was surviving. But then once I got good at surviving, once I understood how to survive, it allowed me to focus on thriving. Mm. And I learned how to survive as an entrepreneur. Now, some of you all don't have to go through those straits, don't have to go through those stories. Some of you all have a job right now that you're surviving with. Some of you all have a job right now that's paying the bills, that's taking care of everything. The big key is figure out how to think the long game with your business while your job is your survival mechanism. The long game with your business is what are the Randy says this all the time. What are the profit generating activities that I'm doing every day in my business so that in the long run, I'm setting traps, I'm farming, I'm tilling the land, I'm building relationships, I'm doing whatever so that a year from now, let's say you made $5,000 in your business all last year. The question you want to ask yourself is not how do I make $100,000 with my business next year? The question you want to ask yourself is how do I make $10,000 or $20,000 with my business next year? Because if you can do that, if you can make sure that you can double your business every time you can do that, then now you're that much further or that much closer to leaving your job. You're that much closer to not having to continue doing what you were doing for survival, right? And right now, you can just stack that money. You can just put it into the bank. You can invest it in your business. You can do what you need to do. One of the biggest things that I realize now at this stage in my business, right? Because and Randy, you know this. We talk about this all the time. Going from 0 to 6 figures is one journey, but going from 6 figures to 7 figures is a whole different journey. And one of the biggest things it's funny because I went from running companies and doing and when I go into companies, I help other people to run established things. I know how to run a team. I know how to set things up and to get the best out of people. But this journey from 6 to 7, because you've been grinding and struggling and scraping to 6, you're so used to doing everything yourself from 0 to 6 figures.
That's right. Right.
Now I'm having to get back into the mindset, right? It's relearning what I already knew, which is the crazy thing, right? I'm having to get back into the mindset of 6 to 7 ain't going to be about me at all. It's going to be about my team. And so we're restructuring everything so that my team can be successful.
Powerful stuff. Right? Y'all hearing that? These are lever moments where we're putting a lever in front of you. If you say lever, that's fine too. We're putting a lever.
Our friends in front across of you. The pond.
So if you decide what lever you want to pull that works best for you. Now, if you at any point you say, yeah, that's you guys. Yeah, that's y'all. You're not in the middle. You're not in the throes. Rob just described having been in the throes, right? Working 4 and 5 jobs. Now, listen, here's the kicker. And this is the key. Now, I ask this question and it really just, it's like throwing the bomb in the middle of the city, if you will, the metaphorical bomb that blows everything up, right? So I'll ask someone, and Rob's heard me ask this question. Are you willing to go to 0? Mm-hmm. Are you willing to go to 0 to one day get to millions? I can't tell you how many people will say, honestly, I ask them honestly, be 100. No. And then what comes next is because of my family or because of whatever. Ultimately, are you willing to go to 0 is just one of those kind of questions that says whether or not you're willing to do what it takes. Going to 0 metaphorically could mean I'm going to get rid of all other distractions. That's all I'm asking, right? Now, most people think, oh, I'm not willing to go to no money, but I'm really asking a deeper question, right? And those that answer it properly are the ones I'm willing to work with. If they go, yes, I'm willing to go to 0, that's a person you can work with, because that's a person that says, I will cut off the TV. I'll get rid of cable. My family will be all right. They can read some books, right? That because they're now willing to incorporate all that is going to be necessary. Now, James Clear talked about that in Atomic Habits. He says that one of the best ways to enhance your habit, and I'm paraphrasing badly here, is to surround yourself with people that are on board, basically. To have your environment in such a way that success is
inevitable.
You're inevitable because the environment is such, right? You don't have someone pulling you in another direction. I had to tell a guy quite recently, I said, listen, don't let your ego keep you broke. Don't let your ego keep you broke. I says, because the ego wants what it wants. I said, we got to find a way to give it a little. And that may be by saying, okay, ego, I know you want me styling. I know you want me driving the best cars. I know you want me living, fly and all that. But if you allow me to go to zero, then I will, someday become the hero, whatever, right? I will someday soon. And then if you can map it out, the ego will leave you alone. Trust me. But you gotta be, and again, the people that talk a lot about habits and habit formings, whether it's Charles Duhigg or whomever, right? The James Clears, they'll tell you if you do something and then you celebrate it, that's enough of the little bit of the dopamine hit, right? That's a little bit that says, oh, okay, right? You do a little something. And this is something that I had to put in my life because I was a grinder. You hear me? And it was something about just, that whole idea. And it works, but to the exclusion of everybody.
And here's the biggest key on grinding and why it doesn't work, right? Because in Thriving in Chaos, we really tap into this because the general person that comes up to us in Thriving in Chaos, I understand this journey because it was my journey. It's the recovering perfectionist. It's the person who grinds and grinds and grinds and grinds. Why? Because that's what you're supposed to do. Hard work is a virtue, right? In that mindset. And over time, here's what happens in the brain, right? James Clear, Charles Duhigg, all of the researchers will tell you this. Here's what happens in the brain. Your brain uses 20% of the energy of your total body, even though your brain is only 2% of the mass of your body. So your brain is constantly on an energy conservation mission because it already knows that for survival, it can't just ball out and use as much energy as it wants. It already uses a whole bunch. And here's one of the ways that your brain does that. What your brain does is when you don't reward it for work, for energy expended, your brain naturally, automatically, without you even doing it consciously or whatever, your brain says, make that thing harder next time. And so for those grinders out there, all of them come to me. When my clients come to me for Thriving in Chaos, what happens is they're at this point where they're burnt out. They're at a point where they have grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded, and they have overridden their brain over and over and over and over again, so that their brain has put a big stop sign, a big old, them big caution tape brick walls at the end of the railroad tracks, right? The brain has said, you shall not pass. You cannot go any further. And they're trying to figure out, why is it that they can't get excited about achieving anymore? Why is it that they feel like when they see a to-do list, it makes them want to gag? Why is it that they feel like a hamster on a wheel, just spinning in place and not going anywhere? And the reason why is because that grinding has taken you to a place where your brain is like, no, we're not doing it no more because there's no reward. This is a waste of energy. And they're having an existential crisis, right? You got this cognitive dissonance because you know that the stuff that is on that to-do list is beneficial, quote unquote. You know that it's what you should be doing, but then you can't get it done. And we're trying to figure out what is going on. Why don't I even want to achieve anymore? Right. And the biggest key to that, you lose that passion, you lose that zeal, and being a grinder is your identity, and it gets stripped from you. Right. It happens right around in between 35 and 50 for most people, and it gets stripped. And the reason why it gets stripped is because of what Randy just said. You haven't been rewarding your grinding. And because you haven't been rewarding your grinding, your brain has been making it increasingly more difficult to grind. And it's a simple switch. It's a simple switch of saying, instead of that's what you should be doing, therefore there's no reward, you have to switch in your mind the idea that if you do what you should be doing, there should be a reward. If you do more than you should be doing, there should be an even bigger reward. Because here's the reality that most of us don't like to face up to. There's another option. And that option is to not do what you should be doing. And here's the crazy thing. That option is becoming more and more appealing as you get closer and closer to burnout.
Ooh, look, dimes dropping. Y'all pick them up and get rich. I'm just saying, if you pick up enough dimes, and this is all it's about, right? When we do this stuff, when we talk, we love coming on here and just sharing. We could probably share a whole lot more. Next thing you know, an hour's gone by, right? And we're not trying to put you under that kind of stress. You're like, I got a life to do, right? But if you're into listening to what the Two Business Guys mastermind on, and you start seeing some of the similar threads, it talks about ways, obviously, to make money, tips and tricks to, leverage your business, ways to go from chaos to thriving. We have books up. We have all kinds of stuff that we are suggesting to you to go and listen to. Just a little bit of your time, an hour that could end up making you a lot more money, right? Obviously, some of this stuff, we can't guarantee you're going to, because we don't know your work ethic, right? We can't suggest that all that we talk about are going to be the things that you go immediately and make millions of dollars. We can't say that. We're not going to do that. But we can say that if you leverage the stuff that we talk about, there's going to be good outcomes, right?
If you apply the knowledge.
Apply. Try. I read a quote, and I couldn't believe that it was from, I think it was from Peter Drucker. And he was talking about, and I'm getting ready to paraphrase badly again, but he says something to the effect of, you kind of know what to do, but doing it is another thing. You know what to do. You know what to stop doing. The question becomes, will you? Right now, and I can tell you in so many different areas why we are able to come in and look at situations and go, are you kidding me right now? Do you guys not see this? Do you not see the absolute mistakes that you're making in your business every day?
And you're not go into so many places.
You're not doing this. You're not addressing this. You're not selling anymore.
I go into so many places, and that's exactly it. And so that quote is really powerful. What I do is we try to take it a step further, because the whole thing about most of the people that are watching this podcast, the whole thing about most of the people that you and I work with, Randy, is this: you all know what you need to be doing. And it's even bigger than the question of, are you doing it? The biggest question is, why are you not doing it? And that's really
what's the payoff
what we're trying to help. Right. We're trying to help you figure out why you're not doing what you know you should be doing. That's really, for the Legacy Leadership Consulting Group and the work that we do, that is literally the superpower that we have. We can help you to figure out why you're not doing what you know you should be doing and overcome those obstacles. What Randy does at Our Bridge Institute, he can help you figure out what it is that you're not seeing, what it is that you're not aware of, about how you can make money doing what you're doing right now, and how you can implement those things into your life. That's the key. How can you illuminate your blind spots? That's the biggest thing that we offer to you all.
We're going to spotlight it
and try to do every week.
Right. And then Rob missed business, Our Bridge Business Institute.
Yes.
That's all right. RBI. Right. And then it's, I always wanted, and I'm gonna tell you why I started. When I started, I said, Our Bridge Business Institute, because I eventually wanted to get it to Our Bridge, because I wanted to get like Harvard. It was Harvard University or Harvard Business School, but they say Harvard, right? And I thought, Our Bridge, RBRIDGE, right? Come on, y'all. This is what we do every single week. We'll be back. And we're going to be bringing you some new things depending on when you're dropping in to our podcast. We're going to be bringing some interesting things that we we want to tweak some stuff, right? We like to start with that beginner's mind sometimes, even for the stuff we do. We try different things. Rob and I get on here and we wrap it out, and we mastermind. But man, when we get other folks on here and we mastermind with them, right? And it just becomes such a rich experience. And then with the way Rob questions and the way I kind of sit back and ponder and go, okay, walk me to how this information puts cash in my pockets or in our listeners' pockets. It's one of those questions, man. I hope nobody heard this one before they get on the show. It's one of those questions that throws everybody off because we don't want you just with information. That does nothing for anyone, right? We want you to be able to go, can I take this right now, walk over here, apply it like Rob says, and to see some return? That's success to us, right? And that's what we are doing for our folks. We're going to be rocking out our things. We got our newsletter stuff coming. We got our information pieces coming. We've done quite a few episodes now. We're going to package those and we're going to offer them to you. And we're going to say, okay, if this is how you like your information, grab this. We appreciate your support and we look forward to it, right? Anyway, so, hey, you've been listening to us a long time here. Come on, let's go ahead and subscribe. Let's send it out to some folks, right? Some people that need to hear what we're talking about, right? We don't care how you look. We don't let race get in the way of revenues. And we certainly don't let politics get in the way of profits. Let me just say it, right? We are here to let you know that we can help your business. The stuff that we're talking about can help your entrepreneurship journey. Leverage it, use it, apply it, set your traps, whatever you want to do. Plant your seed if you're a farmer. Use it to hunt if you're a hunter. Come on now. Y'all know what we've been talking about. All right. So before we leave, I want to go right back to this newsletter that I was looking at and show you the last parts of it. One of the more important parts, I think, that gives you the tip. Look at this. So now they talk about tech tools. Look at this. Tech and tools. So they got these links. Look, they're saying, hey, go over here to The Verge. There's interesting there. They bring you back to their stuff, right? And then I love this one right here. They were talking about, and finally, Master Plan. Substack is experiencing growth and growing pains. I think I've got a newsletter on Substack. Again, creating buy buttons. Sometimes you set them and you forget them, and then the next thing you know, they're making you money, right? So paid subscribers to its hundreds and thousands of newsletters topped 1 million, and it's valued at $650 million. Now, here's how you look at something like this. You go, wait a minute. Substack is basically a curation and collection of other newsletters. They create a platform for you to get paid with your newsletter, kind of like Medium, but a little, more focused on newsletters. And get this, for doing that. Now, they put you in position to get paid. You come on because you have an incentive to do what? Get paid. So you're clamoring to get there. So what? You become their growth engine. And one day, someone comes and says, oh, hey, by the way, because you have all of these newsletters, we see your value at $650 million. All because you created a platform. It's something Rob is going to be talking to you about coming up pretty soon. Creating the platform by which you to jump on. And then as a result of other people jumping on, getting paid, right? If you position it right, get people, put cash in people's pockets, then the value of your company could one day be here. Look at that. $650 million. Now they got to grow. They can now take that. I got all these folks on here. Give me some money.
Yep.
Couldn't you do some of the same things in whatever it is you're doing? How can you be the curator of things? And as a result of that curation, make your business go more valuable. We're going to stop. You want us to peel this off for you and break this down for you? Hey, just hit us on email because we'll break it down for you. You want us to show you exactly how to leverage something like this in your business, call us up. We'll do that for you too. Rob, do you want a couple of things that you want to say about that idea, that curation and valuation now? Look at that.
I love it. Like I was just writing notes. If you saw my head down, I was just writing notes down because I was just, it just spurred a couple of things. One of the big things, and Randy, you say this all the time, make money with everything that you do, right? How do you monetize your life? That's the catchphrase. And I was just thinking about it, right? So many of us have, YouTube channels or websites or all this type of stuff, blogs, yada, yada, yada. But the question is, right, how do you monetize everything that you're doing? That Substack idea is an amazing thing where you can have your stuff on multiple platforms, but you can also have it on Substack. So those other platforms can be driving people to Substack, which is then driving revenue to you. Even if you're not monetized on YouTube, even if you're not monetized on your blog, even if you don't have any of that type of stuff, but now you have a platform where, as Randy says, there are buy buttons that are there. And that buy button at Substack is just to see the stuff, just to be part of the community. Think about, again, if you can go from making $0 a post to making 50 cents a post, to making $1 a post, right? You've just infinitely expanded your profitability on that same post.
That's it.
So yeah, I was just jotting down notes, jotting down things I'm about to start talking to my marketing team
about. Why I'm awesome. Laughing is because, and that's the game, and that's the business. Once I tell people this, and I go, and that's the business. I says, now the work is getting to do that stuff. In other words, getting your buy buttons out there. That's the work. And some things I said in the moment is, I was telling a guy this the other day, I says, this is how I'm going to help grow your business. We're going to completely go this way. And we're going to, because we're that way, our distribution channel opens wide open versus what it was. It was 1 to 2 different distribution lanes. And I says, and we're going to place it in a position so that it can have multiple buy buttons and people aren't confused by that. They're kind of going, oh, I get it. And now your job then is to be in the center of that. And as a magnet does, just attract. And the more you attract, that becomes the key. The more you attract, the more valuable your company gets because you're putting cash in your pocket. I says, listen, what you had before was just giving people information. I says, and that's nothing. We can no longer just give information. We've got to give information, and then we give the hows and the who's. In other words, how you're going to do it and who you're going to need to get it done. And then we can look around and go, oh, I know somebody. Oh, here's a person that has a team. Here's a person that not, underutilizing their team. Here's a person that has a platform. Let's get on that. And once you do that, then the money starts coming. You guys seeing, I basically have put the hunter, the farmer, and the trapper together. And I just did it for you. Just saying.
Drop the mic.
Okay. We'll talk to you next week.